Good morning, students. My name is Mr. Pierce, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the course outline and assessment outline details and requirements for 2021 English. You'll probably notice by now that I've added you all to a Year 12 English ATAR flexible class on Connect. So when you go to Connect, you'll have your own class, which will have your teacher assigned to it, but you'll also have a flexible class. Now, the purpose of this was so that we can give the same content to every student in the cohort. So if you go to the Year 12 ATAR English class, you'll notice there are a number of resources. Now, what you'll need for today, just to get us started, will be found in content as well as library. But if you first go to content and then download the PowerPoint that I'll be using today, be the best thing to do. So, welcome PowerPoint lesson 1. Feel free to pause the video at any point. So today, I'm just going to explain a few things, obviously, that we would have explained yesterday, but obviously because of the lockdown, things have been a bit tricky. So, welcome to 2021 English. Your teachers will no doubt send you a welcome post on their individual pages, but on behalf of them, welcome. So today, what we're going to do is going to read the assessment and course outline. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to explain the process of moderation, just to give you an idea of kind of what scores you need to be thinking about achieving or attaining in order to avoid scaling. We're going to have a look around some parts of Connect and see where things are on this flexible class, and then we're going to do some reflecting on our 2020 results and just begin by setting ourselves up for success by making a study schedule for this year. So that's what we've got planned. Feel free to pause the video at any time, but you'll need to also pause occasionally when I direct you to certain places within Connect. So what we've got planned is just reviewing the syllabus, a bit of self-reflection, and some independent writing when we're reflecting. Now, the purpose of this lesson essentially is to consider what you can do to maximize results for English. So what can I do to maximize my results in English in 2021? This week is kind of a bit of a blessing in that it gives us just a little bit of time to get ourselves organized and just set some goals. Now, what we need to do now is just to find the course and assessment outlines. These have been posted into the library sections. So I will show you where they are. Go to the Connect, go to library, and then download the assessment outline and course outline. Okay, so if you follow my screen into the library section, and if you go to course and assessment outlines, this one here. Now, probably best to download this and save it into a dedicated English folder. Now, it's quite a large document. We will be providing you with a printed copy when we return to school, but I think it's best just to have it as a digital download somewhere. Now, on this document, the first page you'll see is the title page, but the second page is the most important. It has the assessment outline on it. Now, we've already had to change this assessment outline because of this lockdown, so we've changed dates already. But the first task that you see, task 1, is an in-class short answer response. I'm going to actually explain that task in a bit of detail in the next lesson, but what I'd recommend you do between now and when we start is going through this document thoroughly and looking at the set dates and the due dates for all of these tasks and penciling them into a diary or a calendar app. I think most people don't really use a pencil kind of diary, so just get it into your calendar apps, no matter whatever it is you use. Please note, as always, assessments are subject to change because of, I suppose, us not knowing what's happening in the world at the moment. So have a look through this. It is probably more detailed than your last ones that you've seen in the previous years, particularly with regard to the suggested student activities. So this year I wanted to give you quite a lot of suggested activities so that you could use this document for self-study and revision. Also, we wanted to have it just in case, like right now, we are in lockdown and we do have to work online. So there's a lot of activities that you can do within this document. So you'll also see in here that this has all the Unit 3 and 4 syllabus dot points embedded into the actual task. So if we look at task 1, which is a short answer, you'll see suggested teacher activities and student activities, remembering that they are suggested only, but we've also got the syllabus content covered. So you can see what it is we are assessing directly is embedded into the course outline. So quite a useful document for you to use. So save that somewhere where you're going to be able to access it regularly. In my class, you'll be using it almost every day. I'm just going to minimize that and go back to my PowerPoint. So spend some time familiarizing yourself with that, as well as the assessment due dates. Like I said, note them down in a digital calendar, and then note, as always, they're subject to change. The number of assessments have been reduced from previous years, so we're down to 10 assessments. I don't suspect that will change, but I do suspect some dates will change as things change. Your teachers will go through this in exact detail when we get back and when we return to school. Like I said, I'll also be printing them out for everyone. Now, before we sort of get into our year ahead, I just want to go over some bit of information about moderation and scaling. So every task in year 12 is moderated. Now, what that means is that I get all the year 12 teachers together, we meet and we determine the mark for a selection of scripts. So for the 84 in the cohort, we will typically take about 5 to 6 scripts every assessment. Now, what we do is we individually mark those scripts, awarding a score out of 30 if it's short answer, 40 if it's responding, 30 if it's composing. Then we meet and discuss the merits of that script. What we do then is try and set a standard for the marking, okay, for the remaining scripts. Excuse me, Mr. T there. So then what we do is say we've got these 6 scripts and we've got, a 15 out of 30, a 18, a 26. Okay, so that helps us set the standard so that every script that follows will fit within somewhere along that line. Now, the purpose of this is we want to ensure that your school mark and the mark you get in your WASTE exam is as close as possible. Now, we want to ensure this to avoid excessive scaling up or excessive scaling down. Now, scaling up is a great thing. We want that, okay, because that will obviously lead to pleasing results. But the scaling down and inconsistent results between your school mark and your raw exam mark can be problematic for your final scaled score. On the next slide is just some examples. Okay, so if we look here, student 1, and this is real data. So student 1, we gave a school assessment mark of 75. For the raw exam mark, they got 73. When it's combined together and gone through certain processes, it comes out at 76 for a combined mark of 86.4. Now, I don't really understand these two processes here, and you'd be very hard to find someone in the school that does. But what we do know is the final scaled score for English for that student was 81.7. So consistent. This is what we want. Excuse me. Student number 2, even better, consistent. 73, 73, 80.4. 71, okay, performed a bit better. Still excellent results. So you can see on the top end, it is pleasing to see. This one here would be a bit of an anomaly, okay? This was perhaps our first ranked student, but they underperformed in the exam. But because they're still getting results that are high, this final scale score is 76. But it is lower than what they had got. So you can see the comparison between 4 and 5 is a good one to look at about getting that consistent high result. Whereas this person was, excelled in school, perhaps they had some exam anxieties, and you can see the effect it has. So this student who was 8 marks lower in the school score, because they were, consistent, they were able to achieve a 78.4. Now, for some of you, this might be what you're considering, getting these sorts of high marks. For others, it might be on this end. Now, remember, we want a final scaled score of 50, okay, to avoid us having to sit extra English competency tests if we're looking to enter into university. Now, you can see this student here, 61, raw exam, didn't do that well, but because of the high school score, 52.9. This student here, again, lucky that they scraped by. The school assessment was low, okay. Raw exam did well, so that was a really good result for that student to get that 51.7. You can start to see that these 52s, 55s, they're kind of danger zone territory. Now, these students did well in that they got a good raw exam mark that enabled them to get that 50.6 or the 50.2. What the issue lies is if the students are underperforming in their exam, so this student missed out of a scaled score of 50 by, 0.5 because of that underperformance in this raw in the exam. Now, what I suggest my students is we're not aiming for 50. 50 school mark is not going to be a passing mark. What you should be aiming for is that sort of, to be safe, that 59-60, so that if something does happen in the exam, you are still going to get that final scaled score of above 50. So just something to consider, because I know I have a lot of students when we first start in year 12 thinking that 50 is just going to be enough. It's not. Now, what we're aiming for is a solid 60 and consistent results throughout your entire year 12. Moving forward, just want to wrap up this lesson because I'm keeping them to 15 minutes or less. Now, in light of what you've just seen or heard, just consider what goals you can do to maximize these results in English. Now, on Connect, I have uploaded a reflection handout. So it's in the content section. Now, what I'd recommend you do is complete this honestly and ask yourself, what routines could you do to establish those routines, and what could you do to ensure success early on? I'd also recommend you email these to a parent, a friend, or even your teacher. If you're in my class, I would like you to email them to me directly. This will help you keep accountable. So I'll show you what this document looks like. It's pretty basic, but it gets you to consider each aspect of the exam. So if you go to content, then go to reflection. So English self-reflection. So it just gets you to consider each area of the exam. Section 1, thinking back to last year, what did you do well? What would make it better? If you have a goal in mind, a percentage goal, write it down. Responding, what did you do well? Composing, what did you do well? What would make it better? And then towards the end, consider your efforts in the English classroom in a broad sense. So what are your strengths in English? If it's composing, let's look at that and hone in on that so that we can get a 25 out of 30 so that lifts up the results in your comprehending section. So just have a think about what you can do, what achievements you're proud of, and what goals that you can set for this year. Okay, so be honest with yourself. So once you've done that, I then, again, in this line of setting us up for success, I want you to consider a study schedule. Okay, so it's a great time now to set a study schedule. I know the reality is English is one of those subjects that does come sort of last in the list of priorities because you feel it's something you can't study for. All I require from my classes is 20 minutes a day. Okay, the same amount of time it would take you to complete a short answer. Because 20 minutes a day, just through that practice of writing, you're going to get better. What I've done is created a sort of study schedule that might help you sort of plan your time, okay? So you can reformat it as it suits you, but what I'd like you to do is, again, go to Connect, Content, and it's just called Study Timetable. Now, just give you an idea of the things that you can do. Now, this works really well in conjunction with the assessment outline. So you'll see here I've got some general preparation strategies and particular strategies that you can use for each section of the exam. So if you look at the assessment and course outline for the comprehending section, any assessment that's comprehending, they've also got some other additional strategies that you can use. So it might include things like creating flashcards, which is a great thing to do right now. Practicing and annotating good answers, again, great thing to do right now. Now, you'll see over the page that you've got like a model weekly schedule. So what I'd suggest is that you set a goal, it's okay, to write clear and concise short answers that would score a 6 or above, and break it down. Now, obviously, I've put more than 20 minutes on here because this would be in the lead up to an exam, but this is something you can easily do now. So have a think about setting up a study schedule that works for you, okay? Now, the last thing before we go today, in our next video, I'm going to cover the following things. Okay, we're going to look at the comprehending section and looking at a success criteria. We're also going to look at the upcoming assessment overview and task in a bit more detail, just so that you can get a head start on that. And then finally, we're going to discuss some practicing responding to sample text, looking at some critical questions. I hope you found this useful. I'll see you soon.